The lifeblood of New Delhi is back. Metro services have restarted in the Indian capital and some other cities after being shut for more than 5 months due to the coronavirus pandemic.
I'm heading to work now. It was tough before this, having to get to work by motorcycle or by other means of transport.
We've been working from home for the past 5 months. Now my company has asked me to come in. It's a good feeling traveling on the metro on the first day it restarts operations.
Inside the metro, people are social distancing. Sanitization has been done, so there's no problem. It's fine.
The metro operates over large areas of the city and at full capacity carries around 1.5 million passengers every day. Reopening now, when there's been a recent uptick of infections in the capital, could be very risky.
रखिए।
But strict guidelines have been put in place to try to ensure public transport doesn't become a virus hotbed. The trains will only be in operation for 4-hour intervals from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
It is very important to us that our passengers feel safe. There are now sanitizers and thermal scanners at stations. People have to social distance. Officers have been deployed to areas that are likely to get crowded. Police from various states are assisting us. We've also put stickers on the floor of coaches, so there will be a meter of distance between each passenger.
There's been pressure on the government to lift restrictions and help the battered economy recover. Many businesses were shuttered and millions of people lost their jobs during a months-long lockdown that health experts now say was ineffective in curbing the virus's spread. And while some semblance of normalcy is returning, the rising infection rate means a grim uncertainty lies ahead for India. Natasha Hussain, TRT World.
All right, let's get more on this now with Nikita Sud in Oxford. She's an associate professor of development studies at the University of Oxford. Good to have you on the program with us. Last quarter, the Indian economy shrunk by 24%. Is the coronavirus solely to blame for the dire economic situation India finds itself in now?
Well, if Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is to be believed, then COVID is largely responsible for the economic mess that India finds itself in. She recently called this an act of God. The falling GDP figures and the dire economic condition. However, for economy watchers, it is very clear that there was a precipitous decline in GDP in the months and even years leading up to the time that India had its first COVID infections. And obviously, the months-long lockdown has done nothing to help that. But I would not say, and economists fully believe that COVID is not the reason we are seeing these GDP figures right now.
Mm-hmm. Before the pandemic, India had the goal of lifting millions of people out of poverty and giving its people a middle-class type of lifestyle. Are those dreams gone for good? And who would you say has been hurt the most by the economic situation India is in?
So India used to have a growth rate of 3.5 to 4% in the 1970s and 80s. And many believe that with economic liberalization starting in 1991, the economy really grew. India became one of the, economic superpowers on the anvil of, being one of the largest economies in the world. And there was a time when India was the story to watch. It was a democracy. It was growing at 8 to 9%. And more. That story has, very much changed in the 2015, 16, 17 period. One could blame lots of things on that, bad policy making, such as pulling out 86% of the currency under demonetization that was announced a few years ago, which really decimated the informal sector, which is the bulk of where employment is held in India, in the informal economy. Similarly, there has been this push to have certain taxation reforms that have gone down very badly for small businesses, medium businesses. So policy making is where the bad economic decisions lie and which affect our GDP. However, we have to remember that where our economic success lay was good policy, of course, in the 90s, 2000s, but also in the human resources that India has. It has a demographic dividend of a very young population. The majority of the population is in their 20s and 30s. There is a large English speaking population, an entrepreneurial population, and with the right kind of impetus from the government, India can tap back into those resources. And that is what they need to focus on. I'm not sure the growth story is over, but it can't come back automatically. It needs good governance. And that is a big question mark in the current climate.
Yeah, it certainly is. And looking at the number of coronavirus infections, we're seeing 90,000 new confirmed infections a day now. Do you think that it's possible for India to recover its economy at the same time as fighting this pandemic? Because it doesn't seem like India can have another lockdown.
You're absolutely right. We had a very severe lockdown with something like 4 hours notice in March, with huge amounts of migration between urban and rural areas as people lost their livelihood, they lost places to stay, etc. And that has certainly hit the economy really badly. And we cannot do that again, that's for sure. However, like the economy will not right itself on its own, COVID is not going to go away on its own either. At the moment, we are the second worst affected country in the world after the United States of America. We have over 4.5 million infections, and the government and its supporters will tell us that, well, the rate of recovery is also relatively high. So that rate is about more than 3.5 million people have recovered. However, we have the dismal, death figures of over 70,000, and that is if you believe the figures being given to us. There are many comorbidities that are not being admitted when people die, and it's said that they're dying of diabetes or heart risk or whatever, whereas COVID is the push factor. So it's only when we start acknowledging that we have a health crisis that we are going to be able to do something about it. Right now there's a lot of damage control going on, and I think we need to move beyond that face saving to have very direct interventions in the economy and in the health sector. Having said that, there are some sub-national states of India that have done way better than others. So Kerala, Mizoram, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, they have taken the sort of bull by its horns. And I think the rest of India and the central government need to learn from these better stories of COVID management.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Nikita Sud in Oxford, thank you so much.